I've always had voices and visions since I was a small child, so you know, I'm used to them. But when I was about 7 years old, something like that, after my grandma had died, I saw her at the foot of my bed, and I screamed and she vanished. But I didn't really realise I was psychic till just before I married my husband. His granddad died, and he came through to me, and he was doing silly walks across the wallpaper and stuff like this, saying, "You never knew me when I was well, did you? I was always ill when you knew me, and I want you to know how much fun I could be." And he told me that my problems were that I was psychic, and that it was spirits giving me visions. And yes, when I had a vision of my mum and dad coming through. At least I thought it was my mum and dad. I thought it was my mum and dad torturing me telepathically. They did some horrible things to me, these ghosts that look like my mum and dad. They must be very distant ancestors of ours or something. And my mum kept strangling me. This ghost that looked like my mum kept strangling me. And the ghost of my dad kept walking across the living room with 3 severed heads in each hand, dripping blood all over my carpet. And when I moved to Rochdale, they followed me, and they kept saying they wanted me to come back home, otherwise they wanted me to come back home so they could torture me. And if I didn't come back home, they'd torture all the neighbourhood children until I agreed to come home and be tortured. And they were frightening me to death so much, these ghosts. I don't speak to my mum and dad. When my mum rung up, I used to feel like screaming and slamming the phone down. I was so frightened. And I kept making excuses not to speak to her. You know, I was busy or whatever. And but I've since realised that it wasn't my mum and dad at all. There were ghost spirits that looked like my mum and dad. And Richard, who's been my spirit guide from March, he sent them down into hell for bothering me. He just sent them to hell, and he says they'll be down there for at least 40 years, so they won't bother me again. But you know, I said about my Auntie Mary, well, she didn't turn out to be as nice as I thought she was at first. She told me quite specifically she was good at telling the future, and that everything, all her predictions always come true. And then she gave me a few short-term predictions, and they were horrible. You know, people are going to die, stuff like this. She told me President Barack Obama was going to get assassinated last Friday. Well, it didn't come true. And she told me some bad things about my family that didn't come true. So I told her to get lost. And she started having screaming habdabs, saying she wanted to take over from Richard because he was earning a lot of heaven's gold, and she wanted to earn enough heaven's gold to buy a big house in heaven. And I said, "You're not taking over from Richard, he's doing a good job. I've had a lot less problems with bad spirits since Richard took over as my spirit guide in March, and quite frankly, I don't think you'd do as good a job of it as him. And I don't think you'd earn as much heaven's gold as he's earning anyway, because I don't think you'd do such a good job." Anyway, Richard, she was causing so much trouble, Richard ended up having to send her to hell for a bit. Anyway, she popped up back from hell after about 20 minutes, and she was very apologetic, and I haven't heard much from her since. But you know, it's hard being psychic. Not all spirits are nice, you know. People think you just get nice spirits coming through to you, telling you the truth all the time. But it's not like that. It's terrible sometimes. Thank God for Richard's took over as my spirit guide. He's looking after me. Anyway, bye folks.